Cue, reward, habit. This is how our brain works. We have some action that we repeat over and over again that leads to a reward. The science behind why habits stick was found by neuroscientists at Duke University in the early 90s, and it's been studied ever since. But now we've got data from over 10 years of research. So let's talk about it. So there's 3 basic parts to every habit. There's the cue, which is a trigger for the behavior. Then there's the behavior itself, and then there's a reward. All habits follow this exact same formula, and we can use this to reprogram our mind by changing the reward or changing the cue. First, let's start with the cue. This is what triggers us to take a certain action. And cues can be many things. It can be time, it can be location, it can be something we feel, or even something we do. For example, when it's Friday afternoon, you may feel like you want to kick back, relax, watch Netflix. That's because you know that Monday you have to go back to work, so Friday afternoon is your cue. The feeling of tiredness is the cue. Or if you finished a hard workout, you might be tired and then eat junk food. Because you're so hungry and you just worked out, you deserve it. In this case, finishing a workout is your cue. You can see how these are all based on time or location or a feeling or an action. Next is the action. Once you get the cue, you will take an action. And this is very important because this is actually the loop that creates the habit. It's also called the keystone habit. It's the core of the habit. And usually this comes first before you get any reward. It comes first before the dopamine rush. For example, the action may be ordering dessert or ordering takeout. The action could be picking up your phone and scrolling through Instagram. The action could be taking a nap. These are all actions that you do before you get any kind of reward. And finally, there's the reward. This is what makes the habit stick. This is what rewires your brain. You do some action without getting any reward first, and then you get a reward afterwards. Here are some examples. When you order dessert, the reward is you get to eat something sweet. When you pick up your phone and scroll through Instagram, the reward is you get to see funny videos and pictures. When you take a nap, the reward is you feel more refreshed. The reason why these rewards make the habit stick is because they activate the reward center of your brain, also known as the limbic system. The limbic system is made up of several parts, but they all work together to release dopamine in your brain. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a huge role in the formation of habits, and it's what makes us repeat certain behaviors over and over again. When dopamine is released in your brain, it reinforces the connections between neurons, making it easier for you to remember and repeat that action next time. That's why the reward is so important in creating a habit. It's what makes us repeat that behavior over and over again. So what does all this mean? Let me put this into perspective for you. For example, imagine you're trying to break the habit of biting your nails. The cue could be when you're nervous or when you're bored. The action is you biting your nails. And the reward is you feel less anxious. The problem here is the reward is too powerful. It's reducing your anxiety too much. And so you keep doing it over and over again. Now to change this habit, you can either change the cue, the action, or the reward. One way you can do this is by keeping your hands busy. For example, if you're at school or at work, you can keep your hands busy by squeezing a stress ball. By keeping your hands busy, you can remove the cue and reduce the likelihood of biting your nails. Another way is to find alternative ways to reduce anxiety. For example, instead of biting your nails, you can take a few deep breaths or count backwards from 10. By finding alternative ways to reduce anxiety, you can change the reward and make the habit less likely to occur. Now let's look at another example. Let's say you want to make the habit of reading more. The cue could be every night before bed. The action is you reading, and the reward is you feel relaxed. The problem here is the reward isn't powerful enough. It's not reducing your stress enough. And so you keep doing it over and over again. To change this habit, you can either change the cue, the action, or the reward. One way you can do this is by setting a specific time each day to read. For example, You can decide to read for 30 minutes every night before bed. By setting a specific time to read, you can change the cue and make it more likely that you'll read. Another way is to find a book that you're really interested in. By finding a book that you're really interested in, you can change the reward and make it more likely that you'll read. So as you can tell, habits are formed when we repeat certain behaviors over and over again. And it's the reward that makes us repeat that behavior. Every time we do something that activates the reward center of our brain, it reinforces the connections between the neurons involved in that habit. Over time, this makes it easier and easier to do that habit. So what can we do to change that? Well, the first step is to identify the habit that you want to change. Is it biting your nails? Is it drinking too much coffee? Is it scrolling through social media? Once you've identified the habit, you need to figure out what the cue, the action, and the reward are. What triggers the habit? What is the actual habit? And what is the reward that you're getting from that habit? For example, let's say you want to stop scrolling through social media. The cue could be feeling bored. The action is scrolling through social media. And the reward is you feel good about yourself because everyone on Instagram looks so happy and successful. Once you understand the habit loop, you can start to break the habit. There are a few ways you can do this. The first way is by changing the cue. This means changing the thing that triggers the habit. For example, if you're bored, find something else to do. Go for a walk, call a friend, read a book. If you're trying to break the habit of drinking too much coffee, don't keep coffee around the house. Only drink coffee when you're out. If you're trying to break the habit of biting your nails, wear gloves. The second way is by changing the action. This means changing the habit itself. Make it harder to do the habit. For example, if you're trying to break the habit of scrolling through social media, delete the app from your phone. If you're trying to break the habit of drinking too much coffee, only drink decaf coffee. If you're trying to break the habit of eating junk food, keep healthy food around the house. The third way is by changing the reward. This means changing the reason why you do the habit in the first place. Make the reward less rewarding. For example, if you're trying to break the habit of scrolling through social media, remind yourself that everyone on Instagram is fake. If you're trying to break the habit of drinking too much coffee, drink from a water bottle instead of a coffee cup. If you're trying to break the habit of eating junk food, buy ugly vegetables. Vegetables like this. They don't look that appetizing, but they taste just as good. If you want to learn more about the science behind habits, I suggest you check out this video right here. Next, I'll leave it up to you to figure out what habit you want to change. But remember, change can be difficult. It takes time and effort, but if you really want to change, you can do it. Just keep practicing and eventually you'll get there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.